Oh, howdy everybody, Joel Buddy Zoo. And as you may have gathered by the thumbnail, I've got some hot takes. Although honestly, I think this might be one of the most rational takes I've had so far. I got this Lenovo Legion Go S from my zesty Katie in June, and roughly at the same time, I got my Switch 2. So I've had both of these available to me for over a month now, and for me at least, the difference between the two of them is extremely stark. Which one of these do I like best? Which one of these do I think is the overall better value? Which one of these have I been actually playing more? Well, sir, stay tuned and find out. Now, we've done a couple of videos on the Legion Go S so far this year, both of them on my white Windows version that I quickly converted to a SteamOS machine. But this is the first one we've done on the Legion Go S that shipped with SteamOS. And there's a lot to be said about getting a version like this, or even other Windows handhelds like the ROG Ally X, and adding SteamOS yourself. But this beautiful purple Lego, it just comes configured for you right out of the box, like a console, like a Switch 2. So as soon as you power this thing on and log in, you have the ability to download all of the games from your Steam library. Easy peasy. Now this version only has a 512 gigabyte SSD, but I just so happened to buy and assemble a Genki save point. So I have a little 1 terabyte friend that can magnetically attach to the back. Look at that. I don't want to do a dedicated video on these, but they're like $50, and it's pretty easy to plug in your own storage as long as you're comfortable with a hex wrench and essentially a giant SD card. Speaking of SD cards, these M2 NVMe 4.0 drives are a lot easier to find than those specialty SD cards you need for the Switch 2. But honestly, there are a ton of similarities with the new Legion Go experience and starting up the Switch 2. The main difference, though, is that the Switch 2 is locked down to just that one device. If you want to upgrade from a Switch 1, you need to have them next to each other and let the software disassociate your games from the old one and reassociate them with the new one. Meanwhile, Valve couldn't be bothered to give a f***. You log in with your account and all your stuff's ready to go. Let's really quickly compare these two. I'm holding the Ryzen Z2 Go version of the Legion Go. This one ships with SteamOS. It has 16 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigabytes of storage. This goes for as cheap as $550 on Best Buy during sales, but I think the normal MSRP is $600. The Switch 2 is $450 for just this and a dock. No games at all. And it's $500 if you get it with Mario Kart. Practically speaking, I'm going to rate these two at about $100 apart, depending on sales. You could even narrow the gap with open box specials at Best Buy if you find them, but we'll say the prices are about $100 different, because you need to have at least one game, and God bless them, Nintendo just doesn't think they need to ship a console with a game anymore. Nintendo. Put that back in my super vintage case. Remember these? Besides being kind of similar in price, they're also similar in size. The Legion Go S has a beautiful 8-inch 1200p display with a variable refresh rate of 120 Hz. The Switch 2 has a 7.9-inch 1080p display, also with a variable refresh rate of 120 Hz. The Legion Go S is so much more ergonomic, though, it's not even funny. The Switch 2, just kind of like the Switch 1, is a long rectangle. We've really kind of moved past this in the retro handhelds world, so it was kind of confusing to see this. I think the reason this is a flat boy is because the Joy-Cons disconnect. That's something the old Legion Go had, but abandoned, and I like that they abandoned it, because this is kind of a stupid gimmick in 2025. You want to know what I use when my Switch 2 is docked? I use an 8-bit Do controller. And it's because I don't like taking the Joy-Cons off and clicking them into a grip shell thing. It's kind of stupid. I mean, let me know in the comments if you love Joy-Cons. I think it's kind of stupid. Although I haven't really encountered a game that uses mouse mode. We'll talk about that later. I think despite being similar in size, the ergonomics of the Legion Go S are just in a different league than the Switch 2. Even though I've added some cool little Joy-Con grips from our local buddies at JC Studios. So brief comparisons aside, now you gotta ask yourself two crucial questions. Is the Legion Go S worth the extra $100 now? And will it be worth it in the future? The first answer is pretty clear from where I'm standing. I guess sitting. The answer is yes. The Legion Go S is worth the extra $100 right now because it can play a ton of games, even recent AAA games, albeit with some compromises on graphics. It's also super ergonomic, it's user-friendly, and it's just a really, really well-built product. Whereas the Switch 2, it's got Mario Kart. Now, Donkey Kong is coming soon, but right now, it has Mario Kart. And listen, Mario Kart is great. It's open world. It's fun. But it's one game. I bought this Switch 2, I docked it, and I've played Mario Kart off and on, both solo and with my wife, maybe 4 or 5 times. She cheats, by the way. Don't listen to her saying she's better and she knows how to do the dashes and stuff. She's cheating. The point is, right now, there's really just one game for this thing. It's a good game, but it's just a game. But Zoo! All the Switch 1 games work on there too. Okay, if we're living in a world where the entire Switch 1 library isn't also playable on the Legion Go S, because we're scared of lawyers, then yes. Point to Hufflepuff or whatever. But that's not the real world. You can play the entire Switch 1 library on the Legion Go S somehow we won't get into. Now, there are a few good games coming soon, but right now, in summer 2025, the Switch 2 is kind of a one-trick pony. And it's not just me hating for the video. I bought the thing myself, and it's just been chilling in the dock, getting super minimal use. I could have waited, right? I could have waited until a bunch of games came out, and maybe it got cheaper. But I had FOMO. I honestly thought maybe there'd be a Stealth Fire Emblem remake dropped by now. But there hasn't been one. Now that does lead me to the second question. Is the Legion Go S going to be worth the extra $100 in the future? Well, sir, that's a tougher proposition. I think you'll always have value with any SteamOS device just because of the Valve library. The Steam Deck is still the default pick for a ton of people, even though there have been superior x86 devices released in the last few years. It just works. And the Legion Go S here with SteamOS has that same value because it just works. However, Nintendo is going to cook. That's a given. There will be some amazing Switch 2 games coming by Christmas and then into next year, and it's just a given. It's going to happen. That's what they do. There will be a half dozen can't-miss games. Maybe even some generational games, and then you're going to need to have the Switch 2 to play them. When that day comes around, then I think Switch 2 is going to win out. I think it's eventually going to win out. Although, maybe the Legion Go S will be cheaper by then, because it'll be 6 to 18 months from now, and there could be newer models available. I still wouldn't bet against Nintendo, though, because by hook or by crook, they always seem to figure it out. I also want to mention battery life, because the Legion Go S here has a 55.5 watt-hour battery, which will get you between an hour, maybe 2 hours of heavy gameplay. Longer if you're playing indie stuff or emulating with a low TDP. You'll need to have a heavy-duty power bank or be next to a wall, and that's disappointing, especially since some challengers like the ROG Ally X have an 80 watt-hour battery. It's almost twice as big. Now, the Switch 2 has just under a 20 watt-hour battery, but the Switch 2 is also more efficient, and so you're going to get the same kind of battery life you would see on the Legion Go S. If you're playing something that's really pushing the system, like the Switch 2 version of Tears of the Kingdom, you'll end up with like 2 hours of battery life. But if you're playing lower impact stuff, or messing around with SNES games, you're probably going to get a lot more life out of the Switch 2. Well, Garrett, I wanted to keep this video kind of short, so it's time for What Did We Learn? Well, we learned that in the face-off between the Legion Go S and the Switch 2, the results are somewhat inconclusive, and they largely depend on your personal factors. If you couldn't give a hoot in hell for Nintendo stuff and you want to live in the Valve space forever, then the Legion Go S is essentially a Steam Deck Pro. You're going to love it, and you're not going to need to upgrade for quite a while. If you're a die-hard Nintendo fanboy, then obviously the Switch 2 is going to be for you. You'll play Mario Kart and old Switch 1 games and tell yourself that it wasn't a waste of time to stand in line and have it in your hands at midnight. Mario Kart is the only game you're ever going to need. For those of us with feet in both camps, though, the answer is still kind of ambiguous. I think the Legion Go S is the better handheld to have, right up until Nintendo makes a handful of can't-miss games. And then I'll buy them, and I'll pivot to my Switch 2. Right now, though, I'm playing most of my games on the Legion Go S, and my Switch 2 is literally collecting dust on the TV stand. I have to send this back to my zesty Katie, but I do have the Windows version, which I flashed to run SteamOS natively, and so I'll take my save point, and I'll swap it over once I have to pack this guy up and send him back. Look, it's Team Retrog. I'm even using the Legion Go S over the more powerful x86 devices that I already own, like my Ally X here. It is just so convenient to have SteamOS on here right out of the box. You just pick it up and you get right into your games. I don't know, it's a good overall experience. It's cozy. And I know a couple other reviewers that feel the same way, like my best friend Rob and my modulating frenemy, Russell Decor. If you want to be my best friend like Rob, then be sure to like and subscribe and all that jazz. Even my frenemy Russell rang the bell for this channel, so why shouldn't you? We've got all sorts of videos coming out, and we're already gearing up for the fall rush. Can you believe that? We're halfway through the year already. Soon it will be Christmas. Anyway, I need to pack this thing up so I can send it back to Katie. I don't want to make her mad because I want to get invited to the next cowboy party they have at CES. So I guess I'll say so long and throw it back to Stubbs and Ban in the studio. Gary, that means you're supposed to turn off the